This is to Mr. Glauthier and Dr. Cohon. My first question for both is for both of the co-chairs. Would you all, for us, please identify the most recognizable inefficiencies between the DOE and its science and energy labs? And when you do that, please explain to us how these issues affect research on a daily basis. Mr. Glauthier?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the inefficiencies that we noticed the most are the transactional oversight, the amount of approvals required, the amount of investigations and inspections and the like, and that there's a lot of time spent on both sides, both at the department and in the laboratories, on these processes that is detracting from the time spent on the research mission that the laboratories carry out.
Dr. Cohon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would add, just for emphasis, something that Mr. Glauthier mentioned in our testimony, and that's this issue of duplication. As he explained, duplication is desirable early on as a new field of science is emerging. Having multiple laboratories trying out different approaches is a good thing. But there comes a point where the science becomes clearer and a particular approach seems like emerges as the preferred one. We all need DOE to assert itself more forcefully at that moment so we don't waste time and money on multiple approaches. So what we've urged in our recommendation is that DOE look for that opportunity and intervene more forcefully and earlier in that process.
Dr. Littlewood, I'm going to come to you, but before I do, I want to go back to Mr. Glauthier. You said in your opening statement, I think you had studied 50 reports. Was that right?
Yes, that's right. We think we're report number 56.
Number 56, okay. And so obviously, have you seen a trend through that time frame of the detail of getting bogged down into more and more of exactly what you're talking about?
Yes, I think for the last 20 years, going back to the Galvin Commission in the mid-90s, that these recommendations have been very similar, and there's been a lot of concern about the transactional oversight or the amount of micromanagement that's gone on.
Dr. Cohon, did you wish to weigh in on that?
No, sir.
Smart man. Dr. Littlewood, I'm going to come to you. How do you think these suggestions apply to your laboratory?
Let me make a brief comment about transactional oversight. Of course, we are not opposed to oversight. Oversight is important. We must demonstrate that we're using the taxpayer money well. But just a small comment, in 2014, we had 4 significant findings from audits. All of those were found by internal audits. We had 12 internal audits, 50 assessments and audits that came from outside. So we spend a lot of time on trying to make sure that we do a good job ourselves. And I will say that the attempt to bring in the contractor assurance system, which has come in the past few years and was commented on in the report, I think is a very good idea. I will say that there seems to be resistance within the system to bringing that to the stage that it was needed. So that's one comment. And then to comment about the competitive nature of science, I again agree, and I think there are some movements in the right direction. So firstly, science is a competitive discipline. That's one reason that the United States is so good at it. And so the fact that we use competition in the early stages to drive discovery is necessary. And then I think the ability to bring that together at the point where a program can be constructed and driven is something that has emerged strongly as a focus of the current secretary in the past few years through ideas such as the Big Ideas Summits, working together in cross-lab groupings, and it's something that the lab directors support. I think that wasn't a characteristic of activities 5 or 10 years ago.
You said in your comments, Dr. Littlewood, that you look forward to the theme of reintroducing acceptable risk-taking into the lab enterprise. I think that's what you said. I'm reading from them.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Would you elaborate on that? And then how do you define success based on what kind of, quote, failure and risk-taking? I'll leave that to you.
Right. So I think that Well, sometimes actually we must risk success. So we're often concerned about doing things in slightly uncharted areas because the result of success would be a project that was successful, perhaps slightly outside the DOE mission space. We're very conscious, however, of not doing things that could produce failure. Scientific failure is something that one should expect occasionally as a function of exercise. When you fail, you know that you should stop doing that and find ways of doing something else. I'm concerned that we actually have too many programs which can neither succeed nor can they fail, and therefore they tend to stagnate.
Okay, thank you. I'm reminded about Thomas Edison's quest to invent the light bulb on his 1,000th try. His staffer said, doesn't that just frustrate you? It's 1,000 failed attempts. He said, what are you talking about? We now know 1,000 ways that won't work. We're closer than ever. So the chair now recognizes Mr. Grayson.